Hello there. Thanks a lot for staying with us here on Prime Morning. It's time for us to get into News Flash. It is proudly brought to you by Franco Trading Enterprise, still phones, Papa. We're grateful to them this morning. Pick up your items if you need refrigerators, CCTV cameras, if you want some phones, if you also want to buy some air conditionings. Franco Trading Enterprise is your best bet, and we've got our branches all over the place. Make sure you walk into any of them. It's affordable and of quality as well. You can call the number on your screens to make some inquiries. Better yet, you can also download the app. It's on Google Play Store. It's the Franco Trading app, and you're good to go. Our website is www.francotrading.com, and that's where you can also join in and get all the updates that you need when it comes to Franco Trading Enterprise. Franco Trading Enterprise says, still, folks, Papa this morning, kind of courtesy, Franco Trading Enterprise will bring you News Flash here on the show. We're going to get into the front page of the various newspapers to check what exactly has been reported, and then we'll get into our major conversation. The President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, has been explaining the reason why we need to pay the 1 Ghana cedi levy on fuel. Is this going to go down well with the people? And do you think it's the right time for us to be paying this levy? A lot of people believe that you want to take away e-levy and say it's a bad thing. Why would you want to replace it with another one? Now, that's what we're looking at. The conversation this morning here will be around that, and you can share your thought with us. You can go on Facebook. We're streaming live. You can share your comments over there in real time. I'll be reading all of them over here on the show. And our WhatsApp line is also active as well. You can also drop your messages and let us know what you think about the levy, the new levy. Now, as of yesterday, we're not too sure that the President has assented to it. On Prime Express yesterday, Evans asked if indeed the President has assented to it, and we're not too sure. There wasn't any concrete decision in terms of whether the President has assented to it or not. So, but then it's been passed already, and so it's just waiting for the President to assent to it. And the mere fact the President has tried to justify the reason why we need to pay it, it means that automatically he may just have assented to it. So we'll find out in a couple of maybe hours, not days. But I've been joined in the studio this morning. My guest, as always, on Thursday morning, distinguished individuals who contribute immensely to the development of this nation. And in the studio already is Dr. Dickson Adomako Kissi. He's joining me this morning. Doc, how is it going?
My health-wise, very good. National issues, not so good.
Yeah. And I suppose it's the new, okay, well, according to the minority, was passed in a dark. It was nighttime robbery.
They took 11 in the morning and then brought this in the evening. It's not surprising, but it's just that it's come too early. I personally kept asking, government needs revenue, and to take away some of the tax handles that the MPP had put, I was wondering where they were going to get the monies, except for the fact that what people are failing to recognize is that for every 100 meters, there are more drivers than mobile money vendors. So if the MPP was taking money from, let me say, one mobile vendor, the NDC is taking it from 1,000 drivers, which is quite huge.
Anyway, we're going to get into the mathematics of all of that.
Well, I mean, yeah.
We'll get into it. But Brian, we spoke about him last week.
Yes.
And then I saw a video of him speaking pidgin from the beginning to the end.
Yes.
Hey,
and
we're getting a pidgin president right now.
Oh, no, well, in fact, I think that, first of all, let me be very clear again. He hasn't stated an intention to run yet.
Okay.
So he's, as it is, hoping to hear from the committee that he has set up. But I think that he wanted to do something that would resonate with the youth. And sometimes we're so textbooky looking. we're so stiff as politicians.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do something that was just as real as possible. So he's gotten a lot of feedback.
Yeah, I mean,
people are surprised that he even speaks Pidgin.
I never knew you could speak Pidgin.
But I must admit that he did also even a Ga version
of that,
English,
right?
and he tried a little bit of Ewe, which the accent, you need a lot of okro to be able to put that through. But we'll see. But it's quite impressive.
Yeah.
Just to reiterate his message in English, he says that it's a time to talk about unity in the party and to revisit the core values which make MPP.
Yeah.
And he has the experience. He's been through the mill. And when I say through the mill, his attempt in Suhum about 3 times to be a member of parliament there, and that was unsuccessful. Then he went into Abetifi. He's now 4th term member of parliament. He's been a cabinet minister for agric, which is very important in our part of the world. And with all these experiences, he's also been doing business. So I think one thing that fascinates me in the future for him is that he's not a businessman now coming to do politics. He's been doing politics and business in combination, and I think that gives him the knack and the skill to actually do a lot for Ghanaians. And his key focus, job for the youth, and I don't think anybody's as passionate about it. He already has plenty of employees. I think at some point I might also put in my resume. And I think his past has been very devoted in terms of resources to the party, and everything he's done has been for Ghana's moving forward, and I think that's very good. And looking forward, I think within maybe 3 weeks, because it's almost a week now.
Yeah.
So within 3 weeks,
we'll get the feedback.
We'll get the feedback.
Whether to run or not.
And I'm hoping that we hear something.
I want him to. So hopefully we get that, nod so that we can see what he's going to bring. He's stated most of the things that he wants to do in terms of infrastructure, food security, and all of that. So we're hoping that the committee, whatever they bring back, will be able to give him the go-ahead to do what he has to do. Anyway, I love the tie and the folding of the... My God. Anyway.
I will let him know.
Yeah. I've met him a couple of times. The time that we got really close was when I was in Rock City.
Oh, okay.
When I was invited for, we had conversations around politics and entertainment and all of that. He's a nice man when you meet him on that level. Very regular.
Very relaxed.
He wears Lacoste and just, moving around and doing his thing anyway. But, yes, we look forward to it in a couple of days. Let me get to the front page of the Daily Graphic. A few reports have come up. It says one Ghana City energy sector levy to tackle $3.7 billion debt. Finance Minister says so. Inflation drops to 2-year low. Government statistician advises households, entities to limit discretionary spending. Page 13 has got a story on that. And 3,319 66 kilometer substance test positive for cocaine and IB set to destroy exhibits worth over $350 million. Page 16 has got a story. The big one over there says government would interfere with corruption cases, says the president. And that's the Daily Graphic this morning on the front page. At the back page, you can get over there. Japan reaffirms support for the Levy Bridge project, and isolation, social distancing, good hygiene essential to stop mpox spread. That's also captured at the back page of the Daily extremely graphic. Now, the Chronicle this morning is reporting a few other issues, and it says NACOC transfers seized cannabis from Volta region to Accra, and Mahama's magic inflation tumbles to 18.4%, lowest since February 2022. The big story on the front page says NPP MPs protest at police headquarters, demand security for EC to declare Ablekuma North parliamentary results, and that's the Chronicle this morning on the front page. At the back page, you can actually grab some sports news and some of the news over there. Arsenal announced Partey's contract update as uncertainty looms over his future, and Man City agreed deal to sign AC Milan's ring star, and also men hide in toilets for 27 hours to watch Champions League final for free. My goodness, that's ridiculous. 27 hours. Anyway, and some other sports news that you can grab when you get the Chronicle on the back page this morning. And move on to the National Enquirer. And it says Mahama lights the way, bold one Ghana Cedi energy levy to end Tumso forever. And a lot of people are looking forward to what these money will be used for. And he's promised that it's not going to go into the consolidated fund. They'll be used for the intended purposes, because usually monies like these are actually collected and then they find themselves somewhere else instead of going for the purpose of which they were collected. And so we're hoping that we don't get that. And of course, the assurance from the minister, the finance minister, that these monies will be used for exactly what they intend to be used for. Now, in other news, Free Ankara wants, and it says, avoid party colors on National Day of Prayer. And he is in charge of National Day of Prayer. And he's been visiting the king, Takiteko Chu, the king of Accra. And he's been speaking with him and also asking for his blessings with regards to this mandate as well. Now, government to expand the student loans to all tertiary institutions. Education Minister says so. And resetting Ghana is a call to action. As Yedwin Ketia says so. NIB Grills Napo, that's also another one coming through. So, well, a couple of days ago, I saw him also speak about the fact that if you're a government official and for some reasons you've been given certain, duty and you have to be, investigated for that, you should just avail yourself to be investigated. This one also comes up as another situation, but not much has been heard about, his own NIB situation, though. I don't know. The other ones always come with some, display. Let me put it that way. This, I'm not sure many people actually knew that he was even visited by the NIB.
Well, admittedly, a number of my friends and colleagues have gone in for questioning.
Oh, yeah?
And, I think the NIB wants to make sense of a lot of things. And you may be called every now and then for one or two reasons. But they've had many uneventful cases and some few that are very traumatic. and I think that out of this, what is also very important is that they up their communication to the general public so that we can make sense of the whys and the, what ifs that surrounds certain cases or individuals. So that's what we're hoping for. But I think Napo did very well in terms of, his take on the issue that once you've been in government and you've had some managerial role in terms of some of the contracts, you should be ready to answer if there are questions related to it, and I think it's a fair statement.
Yeah, and that was a vice president of him, if you want to put it that way. But I also know for sure some of the NPP people who are very excited about what is going on.
Yeah,
people even in government are excited because they feel a certain type of way when certain things were done, and so they're excited that people have to be accounted for.
NPP does not, as it is, want no accountability.
Okay, Doc, I'll let you answer that. Let me just do this so we can have our guest seated, and then we'll have that conversation. Now, the overseer is here, and he says that won't miss aid convicted in Galamsey fraud case, fined 200,000 Ghana cedis, and small-scale mining. Tops Ghana's gold exports gold board CEO says so. And city gains will absorb the impact of energy levy to force and assures. And Ghana's FDA boss appointed head of African Medicines Agency of African Union, and minority marches in protest over undeclared Ablikumanov election results, and NIP CEO of First Lifetime to June 3rd disaster survivor. Okay, so that's the overseer this morning on some issues that you can also read about when you grab a copy today. And that pretty much will be all the newspapers that we have this morning here on Newsflash. Let me remind you, it is proudly brought to you by Franco Trading Enterprise, Still Funks, Papa Pathie, and I'm using this opportunity to also invite you to be a part of Big Chef on Sundays at 4 p.m. The kids are excited about it, and there's a star chef somewhere who is also doing magic and all of that. Last week, we evicted 2 guys. This Sunday, I'm not too sure who's going to go home, but you need to watch and vote for your favorite. Big Chef Season 4 is the only place you can learn a lot of recipes. If you're a terrible cook like myself, please do well and watch it so you can learn. I've been learning a lot over there. Now, at least I can fry egg, which is good, you know, so you can also try and then watch at 4 p.m. every Sunday on Joy Prime. Lawyer Kwame Jantua is here with me this morning, and he's looking dashing in his African wear as always. Good morning. You've got 2 pens.
Good morning.
Red and black.
And we'll have our home.
You be levied twice.
I'm telling you.
You be levied twice.
What you can fry again, I can fry your mouth. I'm
telling you.
So he has enhanced.
Last week I tried one, he ended up a bent offering.
And then because I don't mean one.
I try, but it's good to see you. And person in the open church, you bring out church. Person in the open church. I think Rosalind also said the same.
Today I heard on the news that they had a language conference in Kumasi.
Oh, a language conference?
Yes, and it happens that our languages are dying because we don't speak our native languages in the house. So today I'm going to speak Twi.
Be calming down. Be calming down.
Calming down, saying.
Too far has gone back to Kumasi.
We're in Accra.
He's taking his past back to.
It doesn't really matter if we are in Accra, but this program actually, I'm sure they have programs that are in Twi. I'm sure they have Twi programs.
So we'll take him to
No, not that. We would promote. We don't want to lose him here.
Yeah, okay, so we'll promote. Brian Champon is speaking pidgin English.
More Brian Champon.
I also can't guy, you know,
Pidgin is also
part of this.
Pidgin, also Brian Champon, in Brian Champon, Sam, in politics.
But you don't know Brian Champon, don't you?
I mean, no, but say in Canasem,
okay. Anyway, let me say thank you to Mr. Kwame Griffiths also joining us this morning as well. I hope you're in good spirit.
I'm doing very well. Very, very well.
Great. Good to see you. All right. So quickly, we'll be moving on to the substantive issue. But Doc, you were
yes, I was saying that the MPP is not an administration or a party opposed to accountability. We've always been for accountability, and I think that we'll never shy away from that.
It's not for mischief? Because many of them feel that they were not really given much when they were in power. Certain people had the benefit of enjoying all the benefit that came with it, and so they're excited that these people would have to account for whatever it is. Then it's based on mischief.
You know, listen, there are sentiments and reality, and I have. Based on my experience with Public Account Committee, let me state categorically that there are many instances where people, or we may have thought through the Accountant General that there were issues, only for us to interrogate, and then you realize that, you know what, in all fairness, some of the variations of contracts were based on very good reasons, either architectural plan changing or, in fact, changes in prices on the market. There are also instances where, for lack of a better word, very crucial details were not on the ground when the auditors went. Either one person was not available or sick, and one of the troublesome ones, I must admit, when people are diseased and the administration fails to capture. So there are some very innocent administrative or clerical issues that sometimes it just takes a matter of somebody either providing the documentation or doing a site visitation to ascertain that this truly is so. So overall, I think that, one, many governmental projects are audited on a yearly basis. And yes, when there's a new government, they might want to revisit. But the funny thing is that audits are done yearly. And government, this new government may want to pick on, very old contracts out of curiosity. But I think a lot of that too might be just to more of an ego trip. Okay. And unfortunately, the hype is unnecessary in some instances. And I say this with the greatest of respect, in the sense that there's many superstar cases, and I always refer to Airbus, where at the end of the day, there was much to do about nothing. One instance now, and I will say this boldly on TV, something like the Sky Train, which is making a lot of noise. Yeah. That is maybe MPP's Airbus situation. And I say this largely because when you become aware of the cost of doing feasibility study in terms of the train or airline industry, then you'd realize that some of the numbers that they are throwing out there are literally much to do about nothing. Okay. Or shall I cite oil prospecting? In the oil industry, forgive me, spending $2 million for prospecting and having nothing to show is no news. Okay. It's no news. So we need to be mindful of the industries and what it takes and what goes into it. I can cite, for instance, within the train industry, though I'm not privy to all of it, just doing metal testing to be sure that our climate and these metals that are going to be used for the train are appropriate. That alone can cost quite a bit, metal testing. And then I can even cite that we don't take certain things serious, but in some corporations, I remember McDonald's spent huge amounts of money to decide on the texture of red that they will use in their restaurants to encourage people to eat more. So these are things that many people are not privy to, that a restaurant will spend millions of money just to decide on the color, of packaging, so that when Jantua enters the restaurant, it'll make him either stay more or add more offerings to whatever packages that he takes. So these are things that people should be mindful of.
So what did?
No, it has to do with
wait. What did Honorable say? Ego trip.
For some.
For some.
Why is it an ego trip? The challenge with audits is that when the results of the audits come out and we find that there are a lot of wuru-wuru with it, we don't do anything about it. Public Accounts Committee. Is it Public Accounts Committee? Is that yes. Then the Auditor General. Doesn't he go into Parliament and tell us a lot of things that are wrong? Yeah. Do we implement?
There's a report that comes out.
Do we implement? So a new government...
Well, the Speaker just said about the recovery through public accounts.
A new government comes into power and they look at those audits that have problems with. And if they want to take it up, they take it up. If it is dealt with the current government in power, why would a new government come and say, I'm come to open it again? Why? Not unless there is additional information that wasn't seen at the time. And for me, that is our problem. Sometimes the mischief is too much. Sometimes there are some big people implicated at the time. So let's say NDC today, something happens with some of the things that, okay, let's say this 1 cedi addition levy. And then the auditor comes at the end of the year and realizes that the 1 cedi wasn't really used for the energy sector, but it went into other things. And those other things it went into, it didn't even go into infrastructure, it went into consumption. And then he says it. Will this government investigate?
Well, they have to.
They have to, but that has been the bane. If we can get away from that, then when the Auditor General comes and says certain things that are detrimental to the country, we
You
take
hold
it.
with that.
Exactly. You see, the thing about this country is that personalities are much more important than the law. So when something like that comes up, they look at the personality. Hey, what are you doing, big man? Oh, mama, they but even when that new government comes and they are supposed to look at it, they talk. Oh, KMG, this is what we found. Oh, you see, if you do this, then it's put aside. I'm not saying that they shouldn't interrogate. They should, but the law should take precedence. And that's the challenge we find here. Look, today I was coming, small thing. I got to a junction, I indicated right. I got to another junction, I indicated left. I got to another junction, I indicated right. I looked at the car behind me. We're indicating one pole. We're indicating one pole. What is the indicator on the car for? To show direction. Irrespective of whether there's a car on the road, there's no car on the road, indicate. That is the problem we have. And we need to be able to change it gradually. But you see, yes, they'll do what we do. But ours too has got to do with our cultural setting. Our cultural setting tends to mold us in a certain way that it becomes difficult. So you're going to see Otumfo, you're going to see Gamanche. Can you go with empty hands?
No.
Why can't you go with empty hands? So that translates into, I'm going to see a minister, I've got to take something. Culture. How should we change that dynamic to make it easier for people who are found, especially politically, to have done wrong? We can take them on. How do we change it?
But on that, I think some of the, maybe the kings, because Otumfo is a king, Gamanche the same, they are making some difference when it comes to this. I remember a couple of months ago, one of the churches, I'm not too sure whether Church of Pentecost, they visited Otumfo and they went with an envelope of money, which was supposed to be a donation to him. He gave it back to them that they should go and invest into the church and people who need help in the church.
There's some cultural things that we do.
Yes, so maybe the sub-chiefs.
I understand that. Sometimes you've got to buy a whole supermarket. Yeah. Especially the sub-chiefs.
They are the ones.
Supermarket. Now, what about on Sapine buy? How do you buy him?
Yeah.
Don't tell you. I ain't quite for no crab catch. Yeah. The catch will buy, then buy snapping corn. They be
That's true.
It's true. But you have to buy a whole supermarket. Do you have to buy a whole supermarket?
No.
Nowadays, our funerals, 40-day anniversary, all you've got to take is water. But people get there and they want what? They want food.
Yeah.
How?
Anyway.
So the system we should be able to correct the system for it to reflect in some of the things we do. Unfortunately, it doesn't look as if we are interested in doing that. So it can become a challenge.
It is actually. It is a very big challenge. But we'll look at some of these things. Kwame, I don't know if you want to add anything. And then maybe I'll start with you with the issue of the levy, because you have been on the defending bench right now. The NDC is now on the defending bench, defending almost everything about this levy, including the president.
Well, let me first of all say good morning to your viewers. I'm really surprised at the turn of events on this particular matter.
Really?
Yes. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I think the president, we all know that our projections were done with 15.5. right?
For
you see, we have to look at the nation as belonging to all of us. The budget was read, projections were made at 15.5 to the dollar, CD to the dollar.
Okay.
It is very good news for all of us that we are having dollar at 10.23 now. But that notwithstanding, it is very clear that that revenue, shortfall must come from somewhere. We are in the business of running a country. Look at it as a corporation, right? So if there is a way to raise revenue, especially from the fact that we have saved, I think, in the neighborhood of about 4 CD 49 pesos so far. It's going to go down still, on the changes in the exchange rate so far.
Okay.
And it's going to go down, probably go down further. Now we are hoping that it stabilizes where it is.
The president says we should be running between 10 and 12.
Well, the reason why he will make announcements is because the CD also falling so fast in such a short time also, it's not good for the export sector. And that's more or less the engine that drives the economy. Okay, so because most of our debts are not in CDs. A lot of them are in foreign exchange.
Yeah.
So we need the foreign exchange to be able to run as a country. Okay, good. So if we have saved so much, right, and that's most of which we have inherited. We've outlined what the energy sector, the levy, petrol levy is going to be used for. Paid down the legacy debts in 3 point something.
1 billion, yeah.
3.1 billion
US dollars.
US dollars. Energy infrastructure, nobody is looking at that. Let me tell you. Do you know when we actually made serious investment in our energy infrastructure? I'm talking about how we transport power from one area to the other. You know that power has to be transported in very high voltage. So you need these high tension lines. And then when it gets down, you need to step it down and then distribute within the community. From the lines to the transformers to the last mile. The last mile I'm referring to from the transformer to people's homes. Not much has been spent on it so far. Last time we were all here complaining that anytime there's rainfall,
the power goes off.
The power goes off. And doesn't go off because ECG really wants to do that, They just feel that they have to flip the switch anytime power goes off. It's the infrastructure. That is the problem. As my brother would say, it's the infrastructure. That is the problem because when the wires are positioned in such a way that just the wind can put them together, and you have different polarities of electricity coming in contact with each other, you have an electrical fire. And that electrical fire can destroy a lot in people's homes because it comes with an energy surge that runs through people's equipment and pin. Apart from the damage to infrastructure that has to be fixed, it becomes a problem. But when you de-energize it, and there's that polarity contact, because they are de-energized, after the rain and the wind, you can turn it on, and you would have caused no damage.
But the energy.
But should it always be that way? It is because of the way our infrastructure is. So this is money that is targeted towards, very important things within the energy sector. So I believe that, and the President has made it clear that it is not going to go into the consolidated fund. That's so far we can't hold him for anything he has said that he hasn't done. So he has said that it's not going to go into the the consolidated fund.
Well, he mentioned that there won't be more taxes, which is the reason why a lot of people are not happy about this. if you're taking e-levy away, if you're taking all the emission levy away, and you're saying that it's not good
e-levy
for us,
was fraud.
Well,
to begin with.
Why would you?
E-levy was fraud.
But so let me just take the video of the president quickly, and then we'll come back to that. So these were the words of the president when he spoke about the new levy.
That carries a debt burden of over $3.1 billion US, with an estimated $1.8 billion US more required to finance fuel procurements for uninterrupted thermal power generation in the coming months. If left unaddressed, this situation significantly threatens national productivity and industrial growth. While we have devised a strategy to liquidate this debt and staunch the bleeding in the power sector, we must take advantage of recent gains created by appreciation in the value of our currency to accelerate the solution to our energy sector challenges. In line with the dialogue's recommendation to boldly tackle the crisis in the energy sector, Parliament yesterday approved an amendment to the Energy Sector Levies Act and the Certificate of Urgency, introducing a 1 cedi, Ghana cedi, increase in the energy sector recovery levy. This decision, though difficult, is necessary and justifiable. The additional revenue projected is 5.7 billion cedis annually. This revenue will be strictly ring-fenced to pay down legacy energy debt, finance ongoing fuel purchase, and avert the risk of recurring power shortages. Funds from this levy will not be subject to the hazards of the consolidated fund. And the minister is here. I know when money falls into the consolidated fund, it faces certain hazards. It will not be subject to the hazards of the consolidated fund. The fund will be regularly audited and audit reports made.
So that's the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, who speaks about the e-levy, the new levy, the energy levy. So how are we calling this? The energy levy, D-levy, or fuel levy?
Petroleum levy. I think that's the name given to it. And you know that from January till now, we've saved almost 5 cedis on a liter.
On a reduction.
Because of the reduction, the exchange rate and all that. You know, so I think...
So in your opinion, this is justifiable, just like the President has said. Ghanaians shouldn't worry about a president or government deciding to collect 1 cedi.
I mean,
fuel.
Taxation always, as a citizen, taxation is, I mean, additional tax is not welcomed by any citizen, you know, but it's more or less a necessary evil. We found ourselves, that's what the president said, that as we are here now, we are in debt, most of which we inherited. Let me make that very clear. $3.1 billion, which we have inherited from non-payments to IPPs and bulk oil distributors and what have you. These are, and you know, which has accumulated over the period. Somehow, we need to make sure that those debts are paid. You know, our energy infrastructure hasn't had any major, you know, investment in that area for a very long time. These are things that we need to do. So I read about some energy consultant saying that it's 2 cedis and not.
Yeah, I'll have Kofi J explain that to us, but in a while.
It is 1 cedi additional.
So it's true, it's 2 cedis.
No. You know, when I read the, you know, the commentary, you know, when I read what had written about what he had said, it was made to look as if it is actually 2 cedis that we are putting on. I mean, you may get off thinking that, oh, the government is introducing 2 cedis petroleum levy. No, there's already, I think, 95 pesos.
1 cedi 95?
No, it's already, it's now 1 cedi 95.
Yeah.
So there's an addition of, and if you listen to the president...
So it's still the 2 cedis issue we're talking.
Not imposed by the new administration, as it is being made to look like.
The person is not
staying... And this is the same policies, and that the energy sector had said, the same energy sector, an energy analyst had said in the past that, you know, governments has no control over fuel prices and what have you. At least from the policies of government. Those days I disagreed with him. I remember very well. It was on City. You know, I disagreed with him that, look, the fact that government does not set petroleum prices does not mean that government's policies does not affect. And this is a clear example where government policies has driven down the cedi, driven up the cedi, and it has affected petroleum prices. I mean, not that alone. I mean, the international oil prices has also come down a bit. But of course, we have enjoyed this almost 5 cedis on a liter because of government policies that he has put in place that has really, and the confidence that people have had in government, and that has brought the dollar down to 10.23.
Which technically affect the fuel price.
Exactly.
Right now.
Exactly.
Okay, Ms. Osai, I'll come back to you again. Now, I'm going to go to lawyer. I want Doc to have the final say because Doc has a lot to say with regards to this. So I want Doc to have the final say. I'm going to go to lawyer and then.
Now, how do you know I don't have a lot to say?
No,
that you say he has a lot to say.
But he's in opposition.
So what?
Opposition.
But I'm also in opposition.
You know,
am I not in opposition?
You have been adopted.
By who?
By who?
I'll tell you later.
I'm also in opposition.
I pray we don't have more of that coming up. The adoption coming up today again. But let me go to lawyer.
It's up to them.
I'll go to lawyer. Then I'll take our data analyst, and then I'll come back to Doc. Lawyer, let me have you. Kofi Eji, sorry.
My good brother Griffiths indicated that they inherited the
debts. Yeah, energy debts.
The energy debt streams from Fourth Republic all through. Whether inherited or not inherited, both MPP and NDC are liable for the debt. The debt didn't start in their time. Yes, it has increased in their
significantly.
It has increased in their time. During the NDC time, before the MPP came in 2017, the energy debt was there. This money is supposed to cover legacy debts also. So let's take the debt as a national debt we've all created. The people of Ghana are part of the debt. Because why? They are stealing electricity. And it's creating challenges.
That's a systemic problem, isn't it?
Is it a systemic problem? Are you saying that people are not aware that you don't have to steal electricity?
But if you put proper system in place, they wouldn't be able to do so.
Haven't ECG people themselves, the technicians themselves, don't they help in the stealing?
That's where the system comes from. Be a part of the system.
So the proper system that you talk about, what's that proper system?
Well, the person knowing that if you tap, the system would find you that you've tapped.
You don't even need to go down that line of stealing. It shouldn't be part and parcel.
Looking at the attitude now.
It shouldn't be part and parcel of your mindset. And this is where country first, love country first, comes in. When you go to Europe, do they steal electricity?
You can't.
You can't do it. You won't even try. Yeah. When you're driving on the road and you see 30 mph, you won't even go 20.
You dare not.
You dare not.
Yeah.
So why can they do it and we can't do it? When we go to their countries, do we steal electricity? We don't. We don't. If we were to stop this stealing of electricity, will it not have at least, or even bring it down significantly? So we are all part and parcel of the problem. So when we discuss it, let's discuss it as a national issue and take the politics out of it. The politics doesn't help anybody because we need to solve a problem. If we are not able to solve the problem in the energy sector, this country will come to a full stop. Finish. That energy is the blood of this country. Look, I was on the spillage committee, VRA spillage committee, and we did a lot of interviews, went to a lot of places. But one thing that stood out was the fact that the workers of VRA would die to save the Akosombo Dam. They will die to save the Akosombo Dam. If you see the kind of commitment those workers have, and the kind of commitment they put towards this spillage, their only mindset was to save the dam. Can you imagine if the integrity of the dam had gone with 2023 flag, where would we be today? Because remember,
it's a disaster.
Hydro is cheap. Hydro still gives us electricity. Akosombo Dam is the last bastion when we don't have money to do anything for electricity. So they will die, and I expect ECG workers to be like that. Die for ECG. Make sure nobody comes to do any wuru-wuru with it, politician or no politician.
Okay.
Because we have been part and parcel of the problem. Politicians have been part and parcel of the problem. That we need to be able to stop. I hope this one city that we've added would be the last time the energy sector will go into debt. Look, it is not the entire solution, but it is a beginning. It is something that we have to do. My major challenge is the fact that if the city does not continue to appreciate and it goes into depreciation, this one city is nonsense. Because definitely, this one city will be reduced. If not to 80 pesos, 70 pesos, what happens then? How would we then make sure that this 5.7 billion that the president talks about annually could be maintained? And for me, that is where the challenge is. If anything untoward happens to the economy, it will affect this. Look, I was looking at the price build-up in petrol, and of all the, is it 8 or 9, road fund, energy fund, special petroleum tax, primary distribution margin, boss margin, fuel marking margin, UPPF, distribution compensation margin, and LPG filling plant administration cost. The only one that relates to this is the energy sector shortfall and debt repayment levy. I would have wanted a situation where the Minister of Finance would explain where we are with this, so that we can assess how that one city is coming to add value to this. I would love him to come and tell us that, so that at any given stage, the transparency of this particular build-up in the petrol pricing, everybody would see. I'm happy with the fact that the president said he's not going to go into the consolidated fund, because he himself has acknowledged that that consolidated fund is a basket. Money goes in and it just falls out. So for me, I have nothing against it. And people are saying, oh, why didn't we use tariff? Why didn't we use tariff?
Yeah.
I understand if we use the tariff would have gone up by 50%.
And you're going to pay for it?
And we're going to pay for it. We're going to pay for it. We need, look, we are between a rock and a hard place where the energy sector is concerned. We need to do something about it. And if this is a starting point of doing something about it, let's see. But we need to be transparent. We need to make sure that it doesn't now go into something else. Oh, we are doing this, then you see it's finding its way into other areas. I hope that doesn't happen. But they need to be able to give us a time limit as to when this thing is going to go until. Not like COVID. COVID, they are saying now IMF conditionality because of VAT. But do you know that with the cost build-up in the petroleum pricing, the special petroleum tax is also part of VAT. So it would be good to be able to explain these things for the ordinary Ghanaian to understand. And I believe that should come from the Ministry of Finance, so that we can follow this thing and see that we are not being tossed, over the parapet, but we are being told exactly what it would do to help us. Okay, so 5.7 billion annually. How does that work into reducing the debt? Somebody should come and tell us.
Even that, I'm going to come back to you again. Even that, the Minister for Energy says that it's not enough. We'll be looking at that.
It is not enough. It is not enough. But it's also got to do with how ECG is managed. That has a huge impact. How it is managed. And I don't think ECG don't have the technical ability to manage it. It's more political interference. It's more political. If you tell ECG, find 40 million to go and buy fuel, you're not going to find 40 million for. The other bit is the cash waterfall mechanism. How does this apply to the cash waterfall mechanism? We should be able to explain it for people to understand that the 1 cedi will bring X into the cash waterfall mechanism. And because it will bring X into the cash waterfall mechanism, we'll be able to pay every IPP, we'll be able to pay debt, because this is supposed to cover all of them.
Yeah.
We don't want a situation where tomorrow it's come, oh, the 1 cedi day we put in, and soon, no, Ghanaians won't take that.
Very well. Thank you, lawyer. I'll come back to you again. But let me go to Kofi J, our data analyst, to explain a few things to us, especially the purported 2 cedis that we're struggling to understand. Kofi, if you're there, good morning.
Good morning, KMJ.
I'm grateful for your time this morning, my brother.
Great to be here.
Great. So one major key issue is how much we're paying, how much is already existing, and in total, how much we're likely to be paying with regards to this levy. Can you explain that for us?
Well, so it is important to put across that the amendment that the finance minister sent to Parliament, he was seeking for an additional imposition of 1 cedi on a litre of diesel and fuel. We should understand that this is not a new tax. It's just the ESLA, a component of ESLA that has been amended to allow a name change of that component of the tax, and then also to place 1 cedi on the tax. So if you do the math for petrol, in terms of this tax, if you were at the pumps buying petrol or diesel, for instance, petrol you were paying 95 pesos. This is the old tax. And then diesel, you're paying 93 pesos. Now, if you add 1 cedi to each of them, you should be paying 1 cedi 95 pesos for petrol and 1 cedi 93 pesos for diesel. The good news is that LPG, which we've all been complaining about, the taxes on LPG and how prices are actually rising, didn't really get affected by this new addition of 1 cedi to the price.
All right, so that's how we're standing. But one also key thing is how much we're likely going to be, in terms of revenue, how much we're likely going to be getting, and if that's even going to be enough. The energy sector minister says that it's not enough. So where are we driving towards if indeed we don't even have the capacity to raise enough of that?
Well, the country finds itself in a very difficult situation, and that's the truth. And I've always maintained that our energy sector has become a debt-making machine. And why do I say so? This is a sector that generates a total debt of $1 billion almost every year. And if you look at the shortfalls, and this is the reason why the finance ministry, possibly, or the president is scared that if we don't do anything about where the energy sector is trending, it could be very deadly for the country. In terms of how much government is expecting, the president has given an indication that maybe at the upper bound, it should be around some 5.7 billion Ghana cedis. Lower bound, we are calculating somewhere, 5 billion cedis. Now, you asked a very important question, if this is actually enough. If you really want to test if this is enough, you need to look at the biggest burden on the energy sector, which is the energy sector shortfalls. We already have ESLA, and a component of ESLA was supposed to go into paying some of this energy sector debt. But per what we are learning in terms of the data that we have, we've been collecting ESLA. The ESLA is the Energy Sector Levy Act of 2015. We've been collecting that tax handle for the past 10 years. And we can confirm that the total amount, according to what we have actually gathered from the various ESLA reports, is in excess of 36 billion Ghana cedis. That's roughly about $4 billion cedis almost every year. But if I tell you how much goes into, to be paying shortfalls in the power sector, it's woefully inadequate. For instance, in 2024, just last year, ESLA collections were around 8.7 billion, Ghana cedis, and just about 1.04 billion went into the payment of energy sector shortfalls. Right. When we say energy sector shortfalls, it's simply the money we need to keep our lights on versus how much, the difference between the money we need to keep the lights on versus how much we actually have. There is a big difference between how much we need to pay or to save the energy sector versus how much we actually have to save the energy sector. And the finance minister, according to him, says that, look, they have actually done their own modeling, and they have realized that for 2025, or this year, for instance, shortfalls could rise to some $2.23 billion. And they have said that between 2023 and 2026, if we continue to go on the business as usual tangent, shortfalls could reach almost $9 billion in terms of the cumulative terms. And possibly this is the reason why government has been looking at this data and say, then we have to do something about, the inflows into the ESLA, and then maybe have a dedicated account that will be for, the purchases or the procurement of fuel to power our thermal plant. And I must say that Ghana is actually treading on a very dangerous path, and there's a reason. I mean, if you ask any child who is in school, the average Ghanaian, that where do we get our power from? Everybody will say Akosombo or any of the dams.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, that's a big no, because currently our energy generation mix is about 70% thermal plants or 70% thermal, energy, which means that, we have actually moved from hydro, which is now just about 28%, to thermal, which is about 70%. That simply means that at every point in time where we have issues with our currency, issues with the procurement of fuel, issues with independent power producers, issues with fuel suppliers, the country will be in difficult period. And the president is aware, the government is aware that you cannot operate a 24-hour economy without stable power. And that's the reason why I'm sure that they've actually looked at the numbers and are imposing this new tax and calling for additional revenue. But Ghanaians will say, well, if indeed the appreciation of the cedi is really having positive windfalls, why do we need a new tax at this moment? Because ECG operates in dollars, right? And gets revenue in cedis. So if ECG is operating in dollars and most of their payments are in dollars, for instance, if you take under the cash waterfall mechanism, ECG is expected to pay independent power producers and then fuel suppliers some $50 million every month or so. That $50 million, usually when the dollar is so high, ECG will have to melt significant components of their revenue to pay just IPP players and fuel suppliers. So now that the dollar is falling to the cedi, it simply means that ECG obligations under that cash waterfall mechanism will be reduced significantly, and they will have the fiscal space to even make some of these payments. So why a new tax now? Another conversation has to do with we not being at fair value yet. And we have been looking at the data from the Energy Commission. And if you check the trend from 2000 to 2024, fair value in terms of how much consumers are expected to pay at the pumps, maybe from 2025 to 2024 to 2025 this year, should be around, let's say, 8 to 50 pesos to 9 cedis. We are not at that fair value yet. We are still around 11 cedis and 12 cedis. So maybe consumers are saying, why don't you wait for us to get to fair value before you start taxing or you start imposing an additional tax? But government says, hold on, we have also done our modeling and we have the hope that looking at what is happening on the global market versus the strength of our local currency, we are expecting more windfalls. So let's take one cedi from that windfall that you are going to enjoy to save the energy sector. Now, the most important question you ask is, this money that is being collected, is it enough to save the sector? The simple answer is that it's a big no. Because this year, for instance, we need about 36 billion Ghana cedis to save the energy sector. And so compare 36 billion Ghana cedis to 5.7 billion Ghana cedis from this revenue.
That's not enough.
Big difference, which means that the money even being collected will not be enough to pay legacy debt and to pay for other shortfalls. That's why the energy minister said that, look, this money, to be frank, will be used in the procurement of fuel to power the thermal plant. This is because we have moved into a zone where if the thermal plants don't produce or don't generate, we will find ourselves in a very big problem. And many have said that this is a very big national security threat in terms of the outlook of our energy sector.
Interesting.
Kofi, I wanted to ask you a question. When you looked at the thermal, hydro 28%, thermal 70%, hasn't that got to do with the fact that we haven't done exploration to production in 8 years? Because part of the thermal is gas. Mm-hmm. If we had constant gas coming in, I don't think we would have this challenge of bringing in fuel. And we have stranded gas today, and we have more gas than oil in our oil fields. We haven't done any exploration, and at the present moment, we are tipping down where our oil production and gas production is concerned. So if we can ramp that up and make our oil and gas situation friendly enough, probably down the line, we can get more gas in. And I believe what we should do, in as much as oil is important, we should look at those non-associated fields, get the gas in. But additionally, I feel if we can get toll back and decide that a certain percentage of our oil would be processed by toll, it can also cut some of the debt. That's why with this, I believe the Minister of Energy should now come and give us a comprehensive plan going forward. Apart from that, the policy of renewables, how are we handling that? I believe renewables, as I always say, should gradually shift to residential. And in so doing, you've got to be able to drop the price of solar panels. And you've got to be able to make sure we can now start manufacturing solar panels in this country. The taxes on solar panels bringing in is too high. It's too high. We need to find a way of getting the renewables into our mix. Because really, renewables will not really power some of the industries that we are looking for. And then gradually, we move that conventional power into industry and start working industry. Because you work industry, you can tax them better, more money comes into the system, and we start rolling through.
Kofi, is this something that we've tried to explore in the case of data that you've collected so far?
I mean, it's disappointing that renewable is just about 2% of our energy mix. And
that's 2%.
I mean,
yes.
What's being said is factual. But one thing we know is that in the NDC 2024 manifesto, there is a promise to build mini dams. I don't know how the president is coming up with that. But we also know that the president wants to build a second gas processing plant, all towards, feeding the thermal plant. But we've been having conversations about nuclear. I don't know where we are currently. We've been having exploration and research for a number of years. I don't know where we are with our nuclear energy plan. But the truth is that renewables is nothing to write home about if you look at its percentage of our current energy mix.
I can tell you something about nuclear.
Okay.
At the present moment, there are two countries that seem to be head on head in terms of bringing nuclear in. And we are not looking at building the massive nuclear drums that we used to build in the past. We are looking at building smaller nuclear plants that you can plug in and plug out. They've actually identified the site. The Americans have brought in a simulator, and it is already installed at the nuclear center in Kwabenya. That would help in terms of what it takes. They are also training a lot of Ghanaians in terms of this nuclear situation, because we are supposed to take off 2030. The nuclear thing is very important. It's clean fuel. It doesn't have any added challenges like the others. So it is something we should be able to push and push well. But the key here is to be able to let the people understand what it means to have nuclear in a certain area. The areas that they've identified to install these nuclear plants, the people need to understand, because a lot of people don't understand what it takes to have a nuclear plant. But it is something that will add to our energy mix. It is something that would push industry up. It is something that would give us excess power and it is something that we need to push. The Americans so far, I think, have put in $1 billion to get Ghana's nuclear thing going.
Yeah, we have $1 billion.
And please, this has stranded through governments. What I'm talking about happened in the MPP time. All the things that have happened where nuclear is concerned has happened in the MPP time. So don't let us try and politicize it. Let's see how best we can get it in. Kofi was talking about mini dams. The question about mini dams is galamsey. How can we put mini dams on rivers when the water is as brown as you can think of? We need to be able to clear that, to put those mini dams. And those mini dams could be very important, especially for communities, especially for businesses. Right now, businesses in Takoradi are taking gas directly from Tuabo to fire their industries. It's a good thing. If an additional plant comes in, and I hope that additional plant is going to be in the Accra area, where and a lot of our oil is in the Volta Basin, in terms of the Volta region area. A lot of our oil is, a lot of our gas is there. We can power it there and probably build up. So the future looks good, but it is how we can manage that future for it to benefit us.
Okay, all right. Doc, I think let me let Kofi go, and then I'll get to you. Kofi, so according to Dr. Pong, CEO of Comac, he says that definitely these prices will go to the consumers. Are we paying 2 cedis? We're going to be paying 1 cedi. How much are we paying? And if the consumer had to take the amount that is going to come, well, how are we doing this?
Well, it's not 2 cedis. The average is 1 cedi 94 pesos.
Okay, so that's
how people will want to round it up. I mean, that's comms and all of that. But it's 1 cedi 95 pesos on petrol, 1 cedi 95 pesos on diesel.
Okay, and the consumers would have to take,
yes,
this
cost. 100%. I mean, they've already made it clear that there's no way the OMCs are going to absorb this, tax, because already they've actually had to reduce their margins for us to be at where we are. OMCs are still dropping prices, and the next window we still expect prices to go down. And one other thing is uncertainty. If uncertainty sets in, that is when we might see prices go up, because what we are banging our hopes on right now, not just the performance of the cedi, but also how prices of crude are trending on the global market. It's around $64 to $65 per barrel right now. But with the slightest geopolitical shift, this can change to the fair value level of, let's say, $100 per barrel or $85 per barrel. And that can be very detrimental to the outlook of our energy sector. And many have asked that when ESLA was introduced, ESLA was supposed to solve our energy sector problems. 10 years down the line, we seem to have the same problems on our hands. 10 years down the line, we've not been able to do anything significant in terms of reducing legacy debt. We've rather moved into a very difficult territory, and that becomes very difficult for us. In ESLA, there was a sunset clause, but we've seen that we've actually even exceeded that period. And with this new amendment, we don't see any, I don't know if it's yet to be placed in, but we don't see any sunset clause in the, this new amendment to give consumers some sort of respite that, okay, we are paying for this period, we are paying for this number of years, and then after that, we can say goodbye to the addition. But the finance minister says that this is a temporary measure. The energy minister also says the same, but how temporary, nobody knows.
Very well. Thank you very much, Kofi, for joining us this morning here on the show. I appreciate you. All right, so that's Kofi J, our data analyst, giving us some clarity on some of the things we need to know with this new levy. Let me come to you, Doc. Doc, according to Buamanyako, who's in charge, who's actually a member of the Finance Committee in Parliament, he says that they actually spoke to the minister to exercise some restraint yesterday on PM Express, but the minister didn't listen, and we're here where we are right now.
Listen, I've had all the fantastic discussions about the energy sector. I will not go into that today. My job today, unfortunately, is to remind all of us that the NDC administration made a lot of noise in opposition when we had e-levy. Or shall I say, when government in power decided to use a tax handle to shore up revenues in the government sector and to help relieve government of some of its expenses. Here we are, e-levy was taken away during the morning, and in the evening we have de-levy. And listen, people have made all kinds of arguments today. The reality is there. The reality has set in. And I think that the current administration needs to come to Ghanaians and tell Ghanaians that, listen, in fact, when you are governing, you need some revenue. When you are governing, you do expenses. And for that matter, we took away something tiny, and we're going to slap you with something quite huge. And admittedly, however you slice or dice it, the current levy makes e-levy a small boy. I mean, this is a reality.
In what regard?
Oh, listen, mobile transactions in this country did not give us 57.8 billion Ghana cedis. The government is looking to get 58 billion from this initiative.
5.7 billion, I heard the president.
No, annually.
Annually.
5.7.
I mean, we're around 6 billion. If you
which literally means that we're consuming about, literally about 6 billion. No, it's billion. Yes, 6 billion.
You can,
billion.
I mean, around 6 billion annually.
So case in point. And listen, my whole thing is that it is funny to me that we were fighting and duking out in Parliament over a tinier tax handle as compared to this. And that's the fact. I mean, this is no e-levy. This is quadruple what e-levy is. And that is the reality, and nobody seems to be, talking about that. And for me,
that into perspective.
And for me, I'm surprised that it's the NDC that was so livid, so pissed, so annoyed, ready to, as it is, maim members of parliament in the past administration for a smaller amount of tax. And I am so scandalized. And I wish that the media guys will go to those members of parliament who were ready to fight and, as it is, throw blows about a smaller tax handle. I really want to hear them today and for them to convince me that, or tell me what has changed, what's different. And listen, I am of the school of thought that certainly government needs revenue. Government can raise money through either taxation or through, as it is, loans. Those are the two options, largely in governance. Now, we, the MPP, never said that that is bad. It was the NDC, in opposition, that was telling people that government cannot be taxing us. Government should not be taking any money. Government has money. So now that they're in power for 5 months and have not even begun to, as it is, do projects, and that is the fact. Nobody can dispute that. This current administration has not begun any projects. Kudos to them if they continue the major roads that we commenced.
Which they have said that they will.
Well, I'm saying kudos to them. But the key point here is that today, listen, we can delve into all the nuances and troubles in the energy sector. I don't mind. But my point here is that, listen, we need to be truthful to Ghanaians that, one, we lied to them when we said that government of the past administration was taxing Ghanaians too much. We lied to them. We made too much noise. We were bickering about nothing. And here we are slapping you with 4 times what the e-levy was. And let me be honest. Atufosin is going after more people than the e-levy. And you cannot dispute
Well, that's
that.
new levy.
Oh, I mean, more people visit the pump. I mean, you don't have a choice. You have to visit the pump.
If you own a vehicle.
I mean, listen, it is not
E-levy, you only need to have a phone and be registered on more money.
Driving in Ghana is not luxurious, trust me. You can have plush cars, but driving in Ghana, listen, if you're in England and you have, access to train and bus, and I mean, Jantra knows.
You will not even use your car.
Listen, there's no need to have a car
there's no need to have
in
a car.
London.
Yeah.
But in Accra, Ghana, many of us, considering Kaswa to Accra to work, many of us, Widiba to Accra to work, many of us in Sawam to Accra to work. My goodness, if you don't get a vehicle of your own, and if you are at a bank where bank will close technically at 5 and you have to stay till 8 to go back home, then you know that, yes, certainly
Honorable, who caused them?
a means to go.
Honorable, who caused them?
No, listen, my point here is that we have never said that taxation is bad.
I'm not talking about taxation.
But this is a party.
I'm talking about the transportation bit.
Oh.
Were you able to give us efficient public transport?
My focus here...
If we had efficient public transport, people park their cars.
My focus here, there are many things I can talk about that government needs more revenue for, but my focus here is that, listen, and I'd love to tell His Excellency John Dramani Mahama that, listen, you've lied to us. You have lied to us. Personally, I feel that you disappointed me because you told your party made a lot of noise about tiny e-levy. I think the cake,
I was just about mentioning
the cake,
that you made a lot of pageants with regards to that.
The cake for this levy ought to be quite huge.
No, but you did.
It should occupy this table.
Maybe that was one of the reasons why.
My point is that the cake for this levy, it should fill this table, and admittedly, I'm not here to talk about what it's going to solve, because we all know that. In fact, I would have thought, Jantra said plenty of things. I would have thought that we'll go even after ECG and make sure that it is running efficiently. And what I mean by that is that, we ensure that those who have to be paying for electricity used, either governmental or non-governmental, are doing that. We ensure that they streamline things at ECG to reduce, because this is robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're taking money from us from driving to go and solve electricity. Which is like, quote unquote, though it's still energy, it's like the transport industry is now rather supporting, as it is, the energy sector. That is what is being done. And as he rightly said, he listed so many things that the fuel pump does for us in this country, roads and all these other things. But case in point, make ECG more efficient so that we do not have to, support. I'm sure Dubik, the former MD for ECG, thanks to God he's alive, is tickling himself and saying, wow, finally, this argument he's been making that ECG needs further support. This is a government that was, at his neck about some of these things. Now, they've come out boldly at midnight, whilst people are sleeping, whilst people are trying to, enjoy their night, to hit Ghanaians with this Gangantuan. This is a Gangantuan tax, and I'm waiting for all the civil society folks who were opposed to government taxation, to now come and tell me that what has changed. Are they suddenly okay with this bigger tax handle? The Speaker of Parliament, for instance, told us that we're signing our exit. I'm waiting to hear him, now that it's his government. Forgive me, the Speaker is supposed to be neutral. But the NDC, what is Mr. Speaker telling the NDC? Because this levy is as bigger or bigger than the e-levy. So is he telling the NDC today that they are signing their exit to? I'm very curious. Very curious.
Okay. I'm going to lawyer. Let me do some messages. I'll come back to you again. Then we'll do.
You can't have.
It's all. Can I get some messages?
My focus was very narrow.
The messages have let us talk while the messages.
My focus was very narrow. Very narrow.
I'll get some messages from our viewers and then we'll come back for our wrap-up comments. Now, this one over here says, KMJ, the former MP should stop comparing the e-levy to the fuel levy because the e-levy was very bad. That was why Dr. Baumia said he would cancel it when he gets the nod. He should stop the propaganda. And that's from what inside as a chair. And let me go to this one over here. And it says that unlike the e-levy, a direct tax where individuals bore the burden alone and had a choice, the Dumso levy on fuel is an indirect tax that affects everyone. The cost will be passed down to the chain, from tractor drivers to traders to consumers, increasing prices of goods and services. This means higher costs for transportation, food, clothing, and more. The levy will have a ripple effect, impacting daily expenses like fuel, food, cocoa wache, fufu, and even beauty services. In essence, the Dumso levy will make everything more expensive for everyone. That's Kofi Anyanan who sent in that. Let me go to Musa. And Musa says that it's either the so-called micro-minority lack a basic understanding of the e-levy and energy levy, or they are once again engaging in needless partisan politics. The truth is the energy levy is a necessary step to clear the unprecedented energy sector debt they left behind and to ensure a sustainable and reliable power supply for all Ghanaians. At least this levy won't be used to dig the most expensive hole in the world in the name of a cathedral. All right. This one over here says, greetings, KMJ. I don't know why you want to side with the government on this Dumso levy. Please, can you allow the politicians to do their own thing? Because we're here in Ghana when NDC made a lot of noise on the e-levy, including Nana Jantwa in your studio this morning. Now they are telling us that we should pay 4.4 cities 50 pesos on 1 gallon of petrol. Eyes are watching. My greetings to Honorable Dr. Adomako Kissi. Nana in Aguna Australia. And how did I side with I've even written something about this e-levy thing, this new levy thing on Facebook, and how much I disagree with even government officials trying to defend it. So I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, let me go to this message. That's a very long one. A very, very, very long one. But okay, start from somewhere. Okay, so I don't even know where to start your message because
I think it's the same thing. He repeated it several times.
Okay, so he didn't start, so I'm a bit confused with that. Now, they are putting 1 city tax on a liter of fuel. I understand there's already 0.75 or 0.95 on it. So additional 1 city makes it 1 city 75 for every liter, or 1 city 95 like you mentioned on the other side. Now, make this calculation. If you drive a standard sedan saloon, which generously uses average 50 liters weekly, you're going to pay. Weekly, you pay 1 cedi 75 pesos times 50 liters. That is 87.5 Ghana cedis. Monthly, you're paying 350 Ghana cedis. A year, you're paying 4,200 Ghana cedis. And the more you buy, the more you pay. That's one person who owns a vehicle and drives. So others who use commercial vehicles will pay in a way. I have seen some government appointees like Shamima Muslim say they are ready to pay to support. Tell me how Shamima, a government appointee, will buy fuel from her pocket. Tell me how government appointees supporting this would pay from their pockets. It's the average Ghanaian. Mahama is the who Kilabitia Brookman Anobil who sent in this one. I also made mention of Amaprat, who also made a similar argument that they are ready to pay and support. And I said, no, don't even start on this conversation. You're not paying it for anything. And that's why I'm angry. Presidential staffers who are engaging in this conversation and making it look as though they are also going to pay. It's not true. They won't pay it. And so I was a bit surprised when my brother was asking that I'm supporting NDC on this. Anyway, good morning, everyone. E-levy, okay. L-levy out. You meant to say E-levy out, D-levy in. The difference is that the E-levy will pay 1 cedi every 100 cedis now. D-levy will be paying 9 cedis on every 100 cedis. And this is coming from a government that promised Ghanaian they will not introduce any new taxes. But what are we seeing now? Mr. Kwame Jantwa and his NDC government as a scam. Christian from Sunday. That was expected. Do you observe, Sami says, do you observe the hypocrisy, double standard and inconsistency displayed by the NDC and the Mahama's leadership? They appear to be untroubled by the Dumso levy, whereas they previously denounced the e-levy as a wicked tax. Now, Mahama justifies the need to pay 4 cedis 50 pesos for 1 gallon of fuel. I will not be surprised if they propose a G-levy, a galamsey tax in the future. This is only the beginning, and I anticipate more to come. My regards to Thomas Oheneba Boache. Okay, let me go to some other messages. And this one says, good morning. Ghana politicians are jokers. Now the minority is against the new petrol tax. So when they were passing the e-levy, they forced it on us. Today they are pretending to say petrol tax is not good for Ghanaians. Shame. Who worsened the energy debt? I'm ashamed of the NPP. They are playing with our minds. All right. OPK Patriotic, it says that regards to Mr. Mankwa Jare Isaac incoming regional organizer and blah, blah, blah. We under Nanado and NPP government e-levy, if you sent 1,000 cedis Momo, you would pay 10 cedis, but Mahama and NDC lied to Ghanaians because of power, and that is bad and will bring a hardship to Ghanaians. But under the Dumso levy, in which they have already told us it is not Dumso, if you send 1,000 cedis on fuel, you will pay 83 cedis of tax, and that is robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it will worsen the hardship of Ghanaians. So Ghanaians are now seeing the true colors of Mahama and the NDC, because this is not the risk that they promised Ghanaians. Regards to Honorable Catherine Afiku, NPP National Women Organizer, hopeful. Yes, a very good morning to Honorable Catherine Afiku. She's vying for the position of the Women Organizer, and I think she's one of the best that you can find in the party, the NPP party. So they should vote for her. Master Rahman Tuna Sala says that, good morning, KMJ. Please, even if the D-levy is 2 cedis, I will pay, because even with that, the price of fuel at the pump will still be better than where the noisemakers left it. Ghanaians should be careful of the NPP, because they don't want President Mahama to stop doing so because of propaganda politics. But the Ghanaians need light to work and feed our families. Remember, they eat from politics whilst we eat from the street. But the NPP has continuously said that they want the government to succeed. And in fact, Doc has mentioned that severally, that they are not against the government not doing well, but they still have to be the minority that they are. Master Planner says today, Mr. Griffin is stammering because it is difficult to defend the indefensible. He go explain, Taya. Please tell Honorable Jantua that it is not true that we are all part of the problem. He should speak to betting some of the e-levy on petrol. President Mahama and his NDC are very wicked. You cancel e-levy on Momo and introduce e-levy on petrol. The e-levy on petrol is now expensive than the e-levy on Momo. 1 liter of petrol is 1 Ghana cedi. It means 1,000 cedis of petrol will cost you 80 Ghana cedis e-levy on petrol. On Momo e-levy, you pay only 10 cedis for 1,000 Ghana cedis. E-levy go kill e-levy come. Okay, NDC are just scammers, and that's Master Planner. Let me go to Kefrim Pong, and Kefrim Pong sent in a very long one. He always writes teases for us. He says, it's getting interesting how government, right after releasing money for various assemblies, government quickly on the same day introduced a new tax on fuels. Government has started spending and now feeling the heat. It was clear government was not spending, so the books were looking good. This government, after scrapping 1% e-levy, hide behind the banks to introduce same 1% tax on bank to Momo transactions. So for salary workers and most businesses, this same electronic tax affects them. Let's deal with the Dumso levy that has been slapped on Ghanaians. According to government, this tax is introduced to solve Dumso issues, even though there's still already energy debt recovery levy on petroleum price build-up. Just last month, this government increased electricity tariffs by 14.75%, and yet we've been slapped to pay more on petroleum to solve the same energy issues. This is very cruel tax on Ghanaians. E-levy was 1%, so if you send 100 Ghana cedis, you pay 1 Ghana cedis e-levy, and with D-levy, If you buy 1 liter of fuel, you are now paying the amount you used to pay on 100 Ghana cedis e-levy. If you buy 1 gallon, which is 4.5 liter, you are actually paying 4.4 cedis 5 pesos, and which is also 4 Ghana cedis 5 pesos on 50 Ghana cedis. And you can actually do the calculation on the number of liter of fuel you buy and multiply 1 Ghana cedis. It's sad to hear our brothers from NDC keep saying it's just 1 Ghana cedis per. Very unfortunate. All right. NPP left energy sector with a debt of 67 billion cedis in Dumso. Otunfo lost his soup and fridges to Dumso during Baumia era. How do you know that? NAPO failed to give Ghanaians timetable. 1 cedi is not enough, but John Mahama is generous NPP. Run down Ghana, we cannot borrow to pay our debts. So Ghanaians should help Mahama to fix our lights. Afinyo Markin should be arrested to bring back the containers. So only 5 barrels of fuel was left for 3 months. Wicked NPP and Baumia. Now, this one over here says that the modus operandi of this government, let's play with the minds of Ghanaians and later come back to beg them. In any serious jurisdiction, the president, appointees, and foot soldiers of NDC should have been sober and remorseful. However, some of them are exhibiting sheer hypocrisy, double standards, and arrogance in an attempt to justify their insincerity. Now, how long will the government continue to deceive the ordinary Ghanaian? Time is of the essence, and when the reality dawns on the government, Ghanaians will realize they voted for scammers. And that's Abdullah Abdul Razak in Tamale. Maybe I'll do the last one here on our WhatsApp. Morning to you, the host and your panel members. Some of us are not against paying taxes, even if it's necessary to add more taxes. Some of us would welcome it. Our problem as a country is propaganda. Politics is what would bring us back. Look, if the monies that would be gotten from these taxes is used for its intended purpose, we would not need IMF. Also, the thefts, illegal connection on the part of consumers will also have to be checked. And that's Natogma from Gushegu. All right. Greetings to all the people in Gushegu this morning. There are lots and lots of your messages, but we'll try and do a few on Facebook and then we'll wrap it all up for this morning. Mr. Griffiths,
yes.
you're wrapping up.
I think
we're done for today.
I just very few things I want to point out. I think it's a fact that we all agree around this table that there is a debt of $3.1 billion that, you know, has been left over. My brother...
it has to be paid to save the energy sector.
It has to be paid to save the energy. And there is an additional $1 billion which is accruing every year per our energy mix. The fact that we are doing 70% thermal at the moment. It's also a fact that the per government policies, largely per government policies, we are saving 5 cedis per liter. Almost 5 cedis per liter. It's 4.49. 4 cedis, 49 pesos per liter. You know, so even though we are introducing this necessary evil, which will go towards paying debts, part of which has been inherited, and my brother said that, you know, various administrations. I'm looking at the current administration, not necessarily the political party which was in power, because current leadership cannot be responsible for everything that happened in the past. You know, so it is important.
Perpetual secession.
I understand that, but I'm just
perpetual secession.
You see, so it is still a fact that as we speak now, per government policies, with this new levy introduced, we are doing 4 cedis less per liter than we are doing, you know, under the previous administration. That's also a fact that I want to point out. I also want to point out the fact that our issue with the e-levy was not necessarily because we thought that it wouldn't raise revenue or taxation in general was such a bad thing. We felt at that point that, you know, being introduced around that time, per commentary from the MPP themselves, saying that it is the poor people who rely mostly on Momo. So more or less, it wasn't a good tax to have. That's number one. Number two, the e-levy, Momo Momo is an electronic wallet. Momo can also be defined as a mode of payment. How do you go to the filling station and go and buy fuel? I go and buy fuel with you, 200 cedis each. You pay with cash and I pay with Momo. You don't get taxed and I get taxed. You see, so the Momo itself, we said, was more or less legalizing an illegality of taking money from people in a way that should not be the case. You can look at it that way as mode of payment, as I described by the fuel scenario that I told. You put money in your pocket, you don't get taxed. I decide to have my money saved as an electronic wallet, and anytime I'm removing it, I get taxed. So there were other issues of concern.
Okay.
And the fact that a government that was parading itself as more or less a champion of digitalization should not be taxing the very means that will make this country less dependent on cash and more dependent on electronic transaction wallets for payments, which would go a long way to help with the digitalization agenda of this country. So, I mean, there were different issues that we had with e-levy. The fact that we had an issue with e-levy does not mean that when we are saddled with 1 billion additional debt on an already accrued $3.1 billion, we shouldn't, as a nation, look at how we can solve that problem.
All right.
I think that should be made very clear.
Very well. Let me take another maybe 3 minutes from lawyer, and then I'll take the last 3 minutes. We're pressed for time.
Did we operate e-levy?
Did we operate
e-levy?
It wasn't operational.
Did we take money from people's accounts from e-levy? Was it operational? We never operated e-levy. We did operate it. Did it
run?
Did it run?
Okay, yeah.
It ran. How much did we make out of e-levy? How much?
Well, so
weren't other forms of taking
taxation
money stopped? Didn't it? And so if we even talk e-levy, what we got out of e-levy a year, would it have been able to cover the debt? So let me ask.
We're not able to raise enough.
Exactly. So let me ask. This 80 billion in the energy sector, Ghanaians, how should we pay for it? The 1 cedi that government is charging us, vis-a-vis having power outages, which would we prefer?
Of course, to save the situation with the 1 cedi.
Let's be honest with ourselves. Nobody wants lights to go off. In fact, it's a psychological drain. When you are going home at night, you enter your area and the whole place is dark. It just kills you. Apart from that, it creates added cost for the individual. My fridge isn't working. I have shopped for the week. I have cooked for the week. It's in the freezer. Lights are going off. What happens? What happens? So it is a difficult one. No two ways about it. Difficult one. But how do we clear the 80 billion? Mine is that government should make sure this money is going directly into the energy sector.
That's a challenge.
Number 2, this shouldn't be the way to say, okay, we are going to take Galamsey tax to clear the waterways and all that. It shouldn't be something that we now use to take money from the people. This is specific. This has got to do with national security. It's got to do with so many things. So for me, in as much as it can be challenging, it is a necessary evil that we have to take on. And they should give us durations, 5.7 billion every year. How are we going to use this 5.7 billion to clear? How much goes to IPPs? How much goes to ECG? How much goes to NEDCO? NEDCO's debt alone, that we don't even talk about. When we talk ECG, we don't talk NEDCO, but it's part of the energy sector. We need to find the money. But the opposition, our responsibility is to make sure that this money is used judiciously for the energy sector and nothing else.
Very well. Thank you very much. Let me have a last take from Doc, and then we'll wrap up for today.
Ghana has many problems. Ghana has many governmental issues. There are many societal related things that requires governmental support, and that also requires that we do taxation. I appreciate the need to do taxation. However, I feel scandalized that a party that was going at arms and ready to beat up members of parliament of the MPP administration has now come to the table and is taxing Ghanaians. I think that they need to admit that though they were not for taxation in the previous administration, now that they are at the helm of affairs, suddenly taxes make sense to the NDC. And I feel very surprised. And I think that the same Atuforsen that was wailing and making all kinds of insinuations about taxation and that they were burdening the Ghanaian people should bow his head in shame. I mean, to say the least, he should bow his head in shame. And if now reality has set in, he owes it to the average Ghanaian to say that, listen, we lied to you when the MPP was trying to raise revenues to solve problems. But now that we are there, we realize that there's no other way. You're either taxing the people or you're taking loans. And I just want to hear that from him.
Okay, just want to hear that from him. This one is coming from Madam Pinker, and it says that we, the consumers, we use prepaid, we pay before they give us the services. So how come there's debts? So somebody is not using our money to purchase the electricity, so that person should pay back the money with the consumers. And it goes on and says that the NDC people should be careful. NDC can't slam the bills on us to pay. Somebody should be responsible for the debts, and that's coming from Madam Pinkra, the CEO of Ricklin Hotel, also sending in that message. We're going to get some of the Facebook messages you've sent to us, but My Father, My Hero is something we're doing to celebrate fathers out there, and this Father's Day, honor the man that has always shown up for you. Send a 30-second video and send it to us, 055157 5757, and share your dad's heroic moment with us, and you could actually win big for that wonderful man in your life, and we might just also tell your story. It will be featured, and so please do well and send that to us, 055157 5757. Just a 30 seconds video, and then I would put that awesome dad of yours in the spotlight. All right, great stuff. Big chef, and I want to say congratulations to Mona Lisa, who is our star chef for the week, and she did the fish meal challenge and she came out tops, and so she should be able to teach me the fish meal. I want to see how to do that. So that
go and do the egg.
The egg first. Start from getting the egg right.
You can't even boil an egg, let alone fish. But when is Father's Day?
I know it's embarrassing,
when is Father's Day?
But I hope you can do Milo. I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay. If Milo to you can't send Walai, we're in trouble.
When is Father's Day?
It took me a lot of effort to be able to do that, by the way. It's either when I'm doing it doesn't end up well. The Milo thing doesn't end up well.
Oh, how?
Oh, yeah.
So how do you eat?
Musa says it's either the so-called micro-minority lack a basic understanding of the e-levy and the energy levy, or they are once again engaging in needless partisan politics. The truth is, the energy levy is a necessary step to clear the unprecedented energy sector debt they left behind, and to ensure sustainable and reliable power supply for all Ghanaians. At least this levy wouldn't be used to dig the most expensive cathedral. Mayuri says, please, dear Ghanaian, let us be realistic, because this T-levy is only going to affect those who have a machine that consume fuel, not like the E-levy that was affecting even the underage using mobile money SIM. Okay. Tahiru says, Mr. Jantwa, Mr. Jantwa, you were a problem E-levy. Don Frank says that a political party, the NPP, made us pay 17 cedis for a liter of fuel. Another political party, the NDC, came into power and reduced the price to 12 cedis per liter. However, they added a tax of 1 cedis, making the total cost 13 cedis. So you are effectively purchasing the fuel for 13 cedis instead of 17 cedis. Which price would you prefer? Everybody coming out with analysis of how this payment is going to be done, the economics of it. Pedro, wow.
Then we should talk about data and Levy.
Live from, okay, she's still live from Indonesia. And Indianapolis, Kumasi, and also Kesben Junction, the main location. That's Indianapolis in Kumasi. Silas Kujo says the only problem for NPP is we can't trust our money in the hands of NPP. They will share it as how they shared COVID money. If the motive is for solving doom, so Ghanaians will be happy. Gasti Man says that, okay, no. You say Mr. Jantua is hypocrite and not principle. Don't use the way you're calling out that. He pretends to be holier than thou. He sees every tax from the NDC as perfect. But he explains the reason why he feels that this is something we all have to be nationalistic about it. I don't know what you're driving at again. Edwin Nilamti says, good submissions, Honorable Dr. Kissi. Well, Adam says, Broke man says, well, for Jantua, this is the same government that asked us to pay more if we want to enjoy light. But we saw what happened in the end, the most incompetent government. Okay, Kariba says that who is the liar and the hypocrite in Ghana? If you used to send 1,000 cedis Momo to someone, the e-levy would attract just 10 Ghana cedis, and the NDC used it to say it was bad. Now, if you buy fuel 1,000 Ghana cedis, the Dumso levy would attract 83 Ghana cedis. Dishonest and outright falsehood shall be exposed in Ghana here. The truth shall make Alaji Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, the next president of Ghana. Akonsi Gariba from Tamale sent in that one. It says, good morning, KMJ. All right, Teacher Kojo says that the NDC took the e-levy away, then immediately increased water and electricity tariffs, and now you slap us with a punitive Dumso levy. Where in your campaign messages did you mention this? Was the e-levy even in your budget for this year? The e-levy was debated extensively by Parliament and the public. This is pure exploitation, where the noisy civil society organizations, including to Chairman Odenoko Piako and Honorable Maybe Sawa Kumsin. All right, so that will be your messages on Facebook as well. We're grateful that you were able to send them to us this morning. That's how we end this conversation here on News Flash. It's proudly brought to you by Franco Trading Enterprise Store.
Why do people think I'm being hypocritical? I explained, don't I?
Exactly what I said.
I understand it.
They didn't hear the explanation.
I think that they want you to be consistent in your not liking taxes. In your not liking taxes.
I'm consistent.
So
I asked you that, how do we pay this 8 billion debt?
No.
Is this an alternative for us
give me a reason.
to do it?
Tell me how we do it. If you tell me how we do it, then we will all see that what the NDC is bringing is wrong.
I'm saying that consistent in your...
Simple. I'll be consistent.
All right.
For e-levy, I already said it was stealing. I said it.
This one is just...
How can I pay tax on whatever money I have? I decide to put it in my account. And then you go in and tax my money in there. It's stealing.
Let me say a very good morning to my brother, Percy. What incredible guy. Mad love going out to you, Percy. You're doing watching this morning. You're on the show. And Percy is the man that would always, have you covered. And it's always good to know that you're on the other side. A very good morning to you, Percy.